Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited to have you. My name is Faris Alami. This is the Startup Grind Detroit, and it's really exciting to have a guest with us today, Alfred, uh, the founder of Express Wages.
Yes.
And this is going to be an interesting conversations. And for those who are not familiar with Startup Grind is an international organizations with many chapters all over the world. And I'm excited to have him here in Detroit. Actually, we're in Southfield Dish today at Lawrence Tech, recording it as we're running a high school program next door to you. So with that, Alfred, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, and usually we do this via Zoom and then we air it, but it's so nice to be in person.
Yes, thank you.
And have this conversation. And as you know, as we're recording this, someone will be listening or watching this later on. So we want to keep that in mind because they might have questions or things.
Sure, absolutely.
So first question, of course, I have is, what is this express wages thing that you're talking about?
Thank you. First of all, I'm glad to be here and all the great work that you're doing, Ferris. The product that we have really is an application called Express Wages. That's the name of the company. That's the name of the actual app itself.
Okay.
Essentially, what we're doing is helping with financial insecurity.
Okay.
So in other words, when someone is actually working a job, we're really targeting gig workers.
Okay.
So if someone is working a job and they get off at a certain period of time, right now, access to capital is a major issue in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the reason why we felt having an application that will allow someone to have access 24/7 to their money was important.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, these days, it seems like it's harder to get money every day with what's happening. So walk me through, who's Alfred? How did what was your journey to get you here?
Great question. I'm also the CEO of a healthcare company that I'm selling. So that's, now out of the picture, which is great. But what got us here was one of my employees had about 150 employees. One of them came to me and asked me about this product with another agency. I had never heard of it before. And so I said, well, let me do my research and see if this is applicable. If so, then I think this could be pretty special. Post-COVID, many people are having retention issues. Morale issues with the company. It doesn't matter what the company is. It could be FedEx, it could be AutoZone, it could be McDonald's, doesn't matter. World Challenge nationwide, everyone. And actually the SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, is saying that 10 years from now that there will still be labor challenges in this country. And so I believe that. And so that being the case, that's how my intro into the fintech space started, someone mentioning an issue or problem.
Very cool. And sounds like you've been an entrepreneur for a while.
Yes.
So walk us through that journey, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
we don't, as you know, we don't have hours, but
no, not at all. Not at all. It'd be very short. My wife's a nurse.
Okay.
And so I've been in healthcare for a long period of time.
Okay.
So very experienced. My wife's been a nurse for over 18 years. She's done cardiac to ER to master's degree. She's pretty smart, smarter than me. But my wife really, she and I got together and we talked about how could we in the senior care space really help people with our experience. So that's how the business started. So we ended up buying a company and really did extremely well. We were the fastest growing in the country in that particular company. And so excited about that. But for me, I understand that, man, technology changes, it grows, it fluctuates. And so for us, we want to do something uniquely different to make a difference. And that's how the situation with Express Wages came about.
Got it. So this was your first company?
Correct.
Back then. And how long ago was that?
4 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. And what were you doing before?
I was a VP of a company. I've been in sales my entire career, even leaving college. And so that's what I've done.
Yeah.
Sales, VP, director. I've done all those kinds of things for many years. Sure. And so for me, being an entrepreneur, I think is exciting, but also it's very challenging. And then you eat what you kill. And so you don't have time to sleep. You don't have time to play. Otherwise, your kids don't eat. And so I think that's important. So for me, I think I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, but I think it had to be the right thing, if that makes sense. They kind of get my juices flowing. I get bored very easily. So I think this was very challenging. And the exciting thing was we started mid-COVID. We started in 2020 in the middle. What really made me start this company, I heard a person tell me that this company was COVID-proof, and that stuck with me. If you had a company that was COVID-proof, many companies went out of business, as you know, restaurants, many went out of business. And so I thought if something is COVID proof, you got something. And it's absolutely true. Regardless of a person's health status, especially during COVID, most people want to have their seniors at home and not in a facility because they were dying at that time. And so that really, and I knew that we could really help and make a difference. That was important to me. It's not just making money, it's making a difference.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that has a lot to do with your upbringing and your background. Curious to know, so what, did you go to college? Did you finish college? What was some of your background earlier than that?
I did. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. Went to high school there. Shout out to Central High School in Memphis. But I also went to a really unique school. I went to one of the few all-male schools in the country. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where Dr. King went. He graduated in 1948, and many others went there. Spike Lee graduated in 1979. The movie producer, director, very famous director. Samuel L. Jackson went there for 3 years, and many others who went there. Julian Bond, the activists, and so on and so forth. I graduated there as well. But Morehouse is known for really producing great men in our society. And so that was important to me. I was very fortunate, ended up being one of the top 3 marketing producers in the school ever. So I'm grateful for that. And what they did was, because of my grades and because of the things that we had done, they select 20 students to travel abroad for free. That was a really unique situation. I had never traveled out of the country before in my life. That's when I had the opportunity to go to Germany, Italy, Austria, many other places for free. At that time, it was IBM. It was the big companies like that, International Paper, FedEx Steel. At that time, we had a chance to go and present to them as a body, those 20 students. We were in the front of the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. So those were accolades, me in the beginning of my career, kind of getting started. And so that was important. But Morehouse is kind of where I laid my foundation educationally, and very excited to do so.
Wow, what a story. And then what did you do after that?
After I left Morehouse, I never will forget, I had a young man that spoke at our school. That's why I believe in what you're doing is so important, because sometimes a spark can ignite something later in a person, especially a young person. That's what happened to me in college. A young man came to speak about being a sales representative and how much money he was making, which is true, and the impact he was making. And I said, I want to do that. Ended up doing that for a very long period of time in my career. Did very well. I mean, just really set a foundation for my career. And that's what happened. And so he came and spoke. He made an impression upon me, like you're doing with these young people, and that I plan to do as well, not just with the new company, but making a difference.
Wow, very cool. So we're fasting forward. You started this first staffing company, and now you're Fintech company.
Yes.
And it sounds like it's some kind of cash advancement for the people's pay, something like that.
Right. It's similar. Many people know about predatory lending.
Yep.
That's a major problem. NerdWallet actually said in 2021 that 391% is what they actually APR nationwide.
Yeah.
It's almost 400%.
Yeah.
You and I both agree that's not positive for anyone, especially someone that's struggling financially.
Oh, yeah.
For anyone, especially Black and brown people, that's a problem. And so what we're thinking is, how can we produce something that's important that can also make a difference? That's kind of what Chime did. If you know anything about the company Chime, he started this company about 13 years ago, basically being like a neobank. And that's exactly what they did. They were like a neobank. And so now Chime is going public, and they're saying now 60 to 100 billion dollars, because why? They were catering towards people who normally, like Gen X, who are not banking. And so as we were thinking about putting this company together, we were thinking about how can we really make a difference holistically, not just being advanced for a lot less than 300%, 40%, but how can you have ancillary products that would really make a difference in someone's life that's a gig worker or making $15 an hour, who really don't have any kind of financial literacy or wellness at all. And we've been able to do that.
You know, fascinating. I mean, and it sounds like, as you started, I mean, I'm always interested to hear the process, at least, as you know, we're sharing the grind that you might have gone through, the process of coming up with the idea in an industry you don't know, but you have the background, at least from a business perspective,
correct,
as well as the depth, I'm going to call it, of management,
yes,
and experience in the business field, in the environment where you could understand the water that you may have to navigate, or at least the ups and downs that you might have to take.
correct.
Not necessarily in that industry, but in general, that probably allowed you to be able to stand on your feet and say, I'm going to do this, and articulate in a way that is meaningful for
Yes,
us to
absolutely
latch onto you. So walk me through the idea comes through, Fintech is where you're gonna go, the specific piece of caching idea gonna come through. What was the next step that you did?
Great question. The first thing I did was I have a friend that is a manager of money in Chicago. He manages $4.5 billion. We went to high school together. His father was the ex-mayor of Memphis for 16 years, first African-American mayor. Their family is very predominant in Memphis. And so I flew to Miami to meet with him and said, man, I have an idea. I believe having a mentor will get you further faster. I believe in it. And so I asked him, would he not only mentor me because of his success, but would you also put me in the right spaces to help me go and help me build a team that will really be, and that's what so my first thing was to vet it, to see if someone thought this was a good idea. Because sometimes it could be a good idea, but not a great idea. And so in my mind, everybody has a great idea, and then you talk to someone and say, oh, that's terrible. So I went with him and he said, I think you got something special. So I met with him. He said, I'll be your first investor. He invested 50 grand. So he was my first investor on the spot. I knew then if someone saw 3 slides and said, this is a good idea based on even what I do for a living, $4.5 billion. And he says, you got something, I'll help you. I knew then that I had something, because otherwise let me get back. It wasn't any of that. It was like, I really would like to help you, advise you. All the mistakes I've made, you don't have to make. So the first thing I did was get counsel. That's the first thing I did was get counsel. And that's, to me, I think building a team is important. I think you don't grow as far as your dream, you grow as far as your team. I really believe that. And so that's something that I think I've been able to do well, is lead people. It's kind of one of my gifts. And so I've been able to together a great team that believes in the mission, but also our ultimate mission is to go back into high schools and teach people about financial literacy.
Yeah. So hold on, because I feel like you just dropped a lot of gold nuggets that I want to take at least one of them.
Okay.
Fold. So 2 things. One, finding a mentor. Okay. And then second, asking individuals about your idea. And then in that alone, there's some few things I want to highlight. One, it's not necessarily who you asked, but it is, right? Who specifically you asked.
Yes.
Someone that you knew.
Yes.
That you trusted.
Yes.
That you thought you could take that risk. Because as you know, you could ask a lot of people about your ideas. Right. Many of these great ideas today were turned down by great investors.
Correct.
Great investors.
Correct.
And I always use the Airbnb example. Like many, as well as Uber, they were turned down by some amazing investors in the field.
Correct.
And they're like, very bad idea.
Right.
And they turned out to be not too bad.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So, and then also the second part of that is people sometimes are afraid to share their ideas because they're like, someone's going to steal it or do whatever. So I'm curious to help the listeners and watchers who are engaged with us today. What are some of your thoughts on those 2 specific topics?
Yeah, I think mentoring, in my opinion, you mentioned something that's very important. Get someone that you trust. And I think also someone who's proven, someone who's actually done some successes in the business sector that can give you really solid advice. Okay. One of the first things he told me was to, no doubt, turn this into an LLC. He told me to make sure I vet everything about the business. He told me about competition. I mean, it's a lot of things that he gave me some of the things that I knew, but we did immediately to protect the company. Very good. And I thought that was very, very important. And I knew that his intentions were to help me. I needed a mentor who, number one, who didn't need my money. Yeah. They didn't need the idea. They simply wanted to help. Yeah. A true mentor. Yeah. And I think that's so important. I think, unfortunately, because so many people have been burned, he told me exactly to make sure that you have someone fill out something before you share this with anyone. Sure. Make sure I stamp it and approve. And so I'm great at following instructions. So I thought that was important. I didn't want anybody to steal the idea, and I thought that was important. Even the name, we had to secure the name and all those things that he told me. We did all of that. So even before we got started, we had a blueprint. And I think many entrepreneurs, they have a good heart, but no plan. They have a great idea, but they don't have the basics of business to be successful. And it takes time and planning to put the team in place. And the one thing he told me was get you a great legal team. So he gave me who I needed to go to, get you a great accountant. These are things. So the foundation was already taking shape before the company even started taking shape. And I thought that was so important. Yeah. And so even now, as we've now gotten further along, I'm so grateful for that advice, because I'm telling you, we've needed that legal counsel. We've needed the CPA to create some documents for us and things that we needed. And if I didn't have that, it just would have put us back further. I just think that's important.
As well as taking so much more time.
That's exactly right. I think that's important.
Thank you for sharing that. So So the company's formed with this maybe initial $50,000 investment.
Correct.
You feel like you're onto something. You
Yes.
start taking off. What did you do next?
After I said, okay, I got a little bit of money, not a lot. I said, I think at this point we need to kind of prove it out.
Yeah.
Find out what the cost of building the application would be. And I can just be honest with you, I didn't know what apps cost. It's not my background.
Yes.
I didn't know how expensive it was.
Mm.
If you're going to do an app, especially like us, if you're going to be taking it internationally, it's very expensive to do it right.
Sure.
And so for us, what we started to do then was started asking questions of what would it cost? We talked about cybersecurity, other things that we've learned about building applications. So we began to do all of that. Once we did that, and I got the total final cost, it was very expensive, and that's okay. And I said, I still think we need to go ahead and move forward. And we did. And so I think for us, what I did was I realized that when you're doing something this size, this whatever, fear cannot creep in. If you're a really entrepreneur that this is what you really want to do, I promise you that little thing on your left shoulder is going to tell you this is too big, you can't do it. And this is what I tell entrepreneurs all the time. If your dreams don't scare you, your dreams aren't big enough. I'll say it again. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. So sometimes this thing is very scary in terms of the scale of what we're trying to do this, because my competitors in this space are all now in 4 years at $1 billion. And we're the first African-American company in the US to do this.
Wow.
So you're talking about walking on water. I'm one of those guys. I'm just grateful. My parents were like that, to try something. If it doesn't try, man, what's the worst thing can happen is try it again or try something different. But we're walking on water right now, and it's really worked well for us. I'm in some really big rooms right now, and it's very important. So I think for me, the team is important. Foundation, architectural blueprints, setting everything up for the company has made us be successful.
Yeah. That's interesting. So one of the things I learned from mentoring a class at the Morehouse School of Business University down the street from here, University of Michigan, the professor used to always say, Ferris, investors will always invest in an A team and a B product, but they'll never invest in a B team and an A product.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's
which
good.
basically means,
It's really good.
you know, if your product is A, but your team is so, I mean, B is still not bad, but it's just not an A as a grade wise. You're most likely won't get investments. You'll get a lot of, wow, that's interesting.
Right.
No money.
That's correct.
Where if your product is so, it's not finished, maybe it has some quirks in it, maybe it needs some polishing, but your team is solid, they'll give you the money. And I asked him, why do you think that is? He goes, well, if your team is really an A team, meaning they all get A's in their work,
Yes.
nothing necessarily in school, but in their work, and then you give them a B product, most likely one or two things are going to happen. Either going to fix the product to be an A, or they'll find the market that meets the B.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So,
That's exactly right.
so I love the fact that you right away started looking at your team and
Yes.
who's around you. So have you hired anyone yet, or
Absolutely.
in the process, or?
Oh, absolutely. One thing that we did early on, because we know we were dealing with the financial sector, was we got a compliance officer immediately.
Okay.
We knew that was important because, number one, regulations in banking are very stiff. They're very important, and you didn't want to be hauled off to prison for something that you just didn't know. I'm not a banking person. So once again, you mentioned this is a new space for me. So I'm the kind of person, if I don't know the space, so I think our team, what we've done, I've gotten experts in the space.
Yep.
Who are experts in what they do. They're experts in what they do. They can actually help you. Even our insurance, having cyber insurance, something I haven't even thought about. The kind of insurance that we got. And so they were able to show us here, because they specialize in fintech insurance. And so a little bit more expensive, but they're experts in what they do.
Yep.
They were able to really educate us. And so that is so important. So we were able to do that, get a team in place, get started. And now we're actually launching September the 1st. And I got some great news to announce on this podcast. We haven't told anybody what we get, what I'm going to tell you. This is for free. I'm not even going to tell anybody else. This is great. I'm just glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, speaking of which, we probably should take a break for those who are watching us, at least to get a coffee or refill the water or do whatever, and then we'll be right back. I'm your host, Faris Alami, and this is Startup Grind. And today we're speaking to Alfred about his startup Fintech company. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us. My name is Faris Alami. I'm your host with Startup Grind, and Alfred is sharing his grind with his startup. But it sounds like an interesting grind, actually, Alfred.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you now have raised some money. You have some traction.
Yes.
Assembled some team. You have some blueprint. And, I'm going to say something, and, I want you to really reflect on this, because I feel like sometimes people who are listening, maybe younger, not necessarily with age. Age has nothing to do with the thing, but younger with the idea or younger with the experience.
Yes.
I feel like knowing your journey, how you got here,
Yes.
that insights you've gained from growing up to the exposure of the different things, traveling overseas to everything else in between.
Yes.
It really probably equipped you, I'm going to call it, to be able to state the statement of, if the idea is not too big and scary enough, it's not big enough.
Yes.
Where someone might not have the experience, the exposure, the connections, being able to pick up the phone and talk to someone, may not have it. And if the idea is too big for them, they probably would fail, just because they don't have, I'm going to call it, the back end support that you had access to, knowing or not knowing.
Right.
So walk me through that. What would be your reflections on what I said? The loaning is good, so where you can take it whatever you want to take.
Right. I very, very good question. I think, in my opinion, being an entrepreneur, you're going to make mistakes. I've made them already, and that's okay. There's a great book called Fall Forward.
Okay.
The key is that you fall forward and not backwards in being an entrepreneur. And I think that's really critical. So for me, I just think that where we are now, I agree with you 1,000%. All the presentations I've done in my career, all the CEO suites and people that I've met in my career are for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I have found is a lot of people fail the test when it's time to perform.
Yep.
So you have to plan to fail and fail to plan. And that's what I think. You have to understand that in some cases, all that you've been through, all the ups and downs, and I can't believe this happened to me, you take those L's as W's. They're not losses, they're wins, because it's not an L if you learn from it. And I think that is so important. And so all the bad decisions I've made in my other careers and things that I've done, I've taken all of that wisdom now and information now. I can use it not only to mentor high school students, but also to help other entrepreneurs who are trying to get in space that they've never been in before. Mm-hmm. It's really scary. And I think that's so, so important. And so for us, being able to do something that is challenging, but also so rewarding. And I think that's really important. And also, I'm fulfilled in what I'm doing. Yeah. So there are some people right now, listen to me on this podcast, they're waking up every day. And the reason why is because you're probably working for someone and you should probably be an entrepreneur. Yeah. It's difficult. That's true. Yeah. But it's very challenging. And so I'm being able to use all the gifts that have been given to me, and whether it's marketing, leadership, arrangement, everything that has been inside of me, I can now utilize that to perfection, to what I want to do, versus being bought up and use it for nothing.
Yeah, well, I like to challenge you, because one of the things when I hear given to you, you also chosen to let go and then own it. So you have chosen to, whatever you've been exposed to observe, reflect, and grow from it.
Yes.
And that really, I think, whenever I have people say, I did it myself, I always feel, you did not do it yourself, but there are things that you did that if you didn't do, you probably wouldn't be here.
Right, right.
And I feel like that's really applies to you really quickly, which is you did it yourself, meaning that you had to really observe those things, have the time to reflect on it, and then act on it.
Right.
And, through your career, as you know, if you didn't perform, someone will give you the opportunity once. If they didn't perform, they're going to shut the door really fast.
Quickly. It's true. Very true.
They might even help you get out of it.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right.
So, not right or wrong, but that's what it is. So you actually performed, so that we were able to accept what was provided, or at least opened for you to go through it.
Yes.
And yes. I'm curious to know, as you went through some of these doors that were open,
yes,
sure, your point fallen forward, flatways, sideways, backwards.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing one of those moments, specific moments, where you felt, I walked in and I thought I was going to walk out with this amazing thing, and I'm walking out naked, or whatever you would say?
I have one perfect for this.
Please.
During COVID, I was a regional director for a major company. I got a phone call on Friday.
Yeah.
The vice president called me on a Friday, I never will forget it, and said to me, today is your last day. You've done nothing wrong. Because of COVID, this is new for us. You cannot go into the hospitals and talk to CEOs anymore at this time. We're shutting everything down. We're letting all the sales team go. 26 people. We'll let this is on a Friday, not even a 2 weeks. I've been let go for a company in my career. So, but here's what I've learned from that. sometimes what I've learned is you have to be fired to be hired. And so they let me go on a Friday, and I promise you, the entrepreneurial inside of me during COVID, it awakened.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be fired to be hired, meaning for yourself,
Sure.
being an entrepreneur. So it fired up something in me, not to prove anything to anybody else. It was, I know I got it. And for once in my life, I put all the chips in the middle on Alfred. And I started a healthcare company that was very successful.
That's great.
And so it happens that way. So I don't look at negative things that happen as a setback. For me, it's always a learning experience.
Yeah.
Because information without application is just information.
Yeah.
You have to apply what you learn, get better. And that's what I was able to do. And from that healthcare company, started the Fintech company.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think about that phone call now. I hate she didn't call me earlier. So, and that's just the way it happened. But even though at the time you sit there looking around, and my wife was thinking, oh my goodness, this is how you support our family and what's going on. But now she's very happy, but
For sure.
absolutely. But at the time you don't feel that way. And that's why I think having mentors and people like that to help me through those tough times, they help you so you don't go crazy. I think that's important.
It's funny you say that because, you know, in many of the other podcasts I've mentioned that entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster. And sometimes the high and the low at the same moment.
Yes, it's very true.
So
very true.
I'm like, oh, what happened?
Yes, yeah, I lost my biggest client. It's true. Very true.
So,
Very true.
So that's interesting. Cool. So thank you for sharing that. So now let's fast forward a little bit. You're at this point where you've raised some money.
Yes.
I think you've raised more than, since we've been talking, you said you raised a lot more than the 50K initially.
Yeah, we've now raised over $500,000, and now we also are getting VC dollars here very shortly. I've signed a letter of intent, so we're excited about that.
So $500,000 so far secured, and you're looking to secure how much more?
3 million.
3 million.
Absolutely.
Okay. And how long this 3 million? How much runway is it going to give?
That should give us about 18 months.
18 months.
Should give about 18 months of the company. And that's mainly to grow the company, help us hire some salespeople, pay the IT team and things like that. So 18 months, right at 2 years maximum, but about 18 months.
Have you built your app yet or not?
Absolutely. We are about 98% done.
Okay.
One thing I love about our app team is they caught some things on the back end looking at 10 years from now. And so I'd rather spend it, is either pay me now or pay me later.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go ahead and do that now to fix it, and which I think is important, which we could go ahead and launch. And then you're saying, why did I do that? And what really I remember all the time, it's not about politics at all. I remember when the Obamacare healthcare was launched, it crashed.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh,
for almost like a year. You remember that? It was a long time. No one could get in. People were so frustrated. Lines outside the doors. And so we used that as a mantra of, we don't ever want that to happen. The same thing happened with Snapple. They use that at Harvard. Two of my advisors are Harvard graduates. Our attorney went to Harvard, as well as the gentleman I talked to you about, Rodney Harrington. He also went to Harvard. And what he talked about was they had a thing that they studied where Snapple was so, everyone wanted Snapple in the early 80s. It was the biggest, hottest thing, and they couldn't supply it. It almost put them out of business.
Wow.
And so they studied that at Harvard. And so, you know, having something great is great. But as you see on Shark Tank all the time, if you can't supply the need, it could be just as bad as being successful.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because when you read a lot of these reports, you'll discover really fast that most businesses go out of business in the growth spurt, not when they're starting.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Because the systems and those demands, if you can't meet them,
people go away.
Go away fast.
They absolutely go away, and you don't get those customers back.
They're hard.
They're very difficult to get back. I went on the site was down, and they told me to come back in 2 months, and they find another way to get it need.
Because they need it now.
They need it now, and to get that need filled. And so we just don't want to go through that. So other than that, it's pretty much a working app, ready to go.
Wow.
Been beta tested, and so we're excited about where we are and to do what we're doing.
That's exciting. So what's next?
What's next for us is we actually also partnered with Allstate Insurance.
Okay.
We added them as a holistic partner on our app. And so anyone who's actually getting earned wage access, they can also get insurance. Medicare, Medicaid, and Allstate is pushing that. They actually put that on our app. They put it on our website, which is fantastic. And so for us, what we plan to do, they're doing a national press release September the 1st. Wow. And so on their website saying their new partnership with Express Wages. So we are just some of the things that are happening, sometimes I get in my car and this just cannot be happening. You know, I made a phone call to Allstate and just told them I was working with underserved people. You know that this is an issue with finances, financial insecurity. They agreed. And so I tell you what, we really would like to partner with you and also partner with you with Express Wages. And it actually happened.
Wow.
And so it is an $80 billion company, almost $100 billion company. So, and as an entrepreneur, you can't be afraid to take calculated risk.
Yep.
You can't be afraid to do that. You will never grow. You would never grow, just like Netflix.
Yep.
I love the company Netflix because why? They approached the king at the time, which was Blockbuster.
Yep.
They said, listen, we got an idea, and you can never let somebody know to you kill your dream.
Yep.
And they told them this will never work. No one's going to do that. There's people still going to drive. They kept thinking linear and not macro.
Yep.
And now $170 billion later, Netflix is the king.
Yep.
And so you just can't let, yeah, exactly. And Blockbuster's out of business. You're exactly right. So Wayne Heisinger. So you cannot let anyone else tell you your idea is dumb, that it is stupid. And no, you go with your gut and just make calculated decisions with your advisory board and team. And I think you'll be successful.
So how big is your advisory board?
We have a total of about 9 people, not on the board as advisors, and we have 3 board members. Even that was really good advice because you've seen these companies start growing and all of a sudden they get rid of the founder. And so that's because how the board was set up. So we had really great advice on how to set up the advisory team and how to do that. That was very great advice for us because the more board members you have, they can vote you off as one of the founders. And so those are some things that we've learned and they help us in our company. And I want to still be involved with the company that I founded. And so that was important. But the advisory team is extremely important.
That's great. Well, Alfred, clearly I can keep you all day.
But
I'm sure you have a few things to do. So
yes, yes, sir.
And I want to just say, if you were to go back, 5 years ago, whenever you started the journey of this entrepreneurial journey, and I always feel the bug was always there. And this is something that Dr. David Bouvier was lucky enough to mentor in his class, told me. Once the bug of entrepreneurs in someone is there, you just don't know when it's going to grow. You just don't know when it's going to hit. You don't know what's going to water it. Who knows?
That's true.
But it's there. So yours awakened.
Yes.
If you were to go back today to advise you 4 years ago, 5 years ago, not that you would listen, not that you would have the context to have what you have today, but what would that insights be to little Alfred saying, hey?
I would say that's a really good question. I would say, listen to your inner self, believe more in yourself, say less to fear, right? And I think say more to your faith or whatever drives you. And so for me, I wish I would have done this, man, 20 years ago. There are many guys I know who are, and ladies who are very successful because they took the chance. They left corporate America, left it all, I'm talking about a lot of money, $500,000 more or whatever. And they said, I think I got something. And they went for it. I had many ideas that I should have jumped on years ago. And I just never did because I was comfortable with my corporate job, doing well. But I think I had a lot more gifts. And I love what you do. And I know, here's what I love about you. Howard Thurman says, do that which makes you come alive. And that's what you do. When I see you with these kids, it makes you come alive. And it's obvious and it shows you're in purpose and that's great. You know what I mean? So, and I agree with Howard Thurman, a Morehouse graduate, do that what makes you come alive. There are a lot of people in jobs, but they're not alive. And so for me, entrepreneurship is not only is it water that makes me alive.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very kind. So, and if there was one word that you would leave people with today, what would that be?
I would say tenacity, man. Yeah, I would say stick to it. It is so easy to say I'm giving up and someone has talked you out of your dreams. But to me, when you got somebody that's tenacious, that has tenacity, they're very successful. That's one thing that Kobe Bryant had. He was tenacious. One thing I love that Michael Jordan had, he was Serena Williams, tenacious, man. Martina Navratilova, tenacious. These are people who were tenacious in what they were doing, and they stuck with it. They stuck with it. Even Walt Disney, he filed bankruptcy, I think 13 times. He was tenacious. And guess what? Everybody now goes to Disney. So it just, you have to stay tenacious, and I think it'll help you be successful.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Alfred, for making the time. Thank you for being here with us today, and for the people who are viewing us today. Thanks for being with us. My name is Faris Alami. I'm the host of Solid Grind Detroit. I'm also the founder of International Strategic Management and Connecting Dots Globally, a nonprofit focused on youth development. This is what we're running today, but another hat. Alfred, thanks a million.
My honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Until next time, see you.